Story of English Literature, Part B, Short Questions with Answers. Elizabethan age 1558 to 1603. Question 7. Write a short note on the Faerie Queene. Answer. The Faerie Queene is a great romantic epic of the Elizabethan period, written by Edmund Spenser. It is in range and artistry simply a fragment and not a complete and finished work. Of the 24 books, only 6 were published during his lifetime. The Faerie Queene is one of the longest and the mightiest literary work before Shakespeare. Classical epic, the metrical romance, the medieval allegorical tradition, Renaissance humanism, Protestant idealism, and Elizabethan patriotism are all found manifested in this single work. The Faerie Queene cannot be really classed as a particular kind of poetry. It is in fact epical, romantic, didactic, as well as symbolic. In reality, it seems to combine medieval romances, Christian morality, and the allegorical spirit of French poetry, along with the classical epic and English patriotism. The Faerie Queene appears as a romantic epic with the traditional materials of chivalry, giants, dragons, battles, witchcraft, and so on. Spenser's attachment both to Elizabethan romanticism and medieval romances is well borne out here. The Faerie Queene is a didactic romance. The romantic stories are well employed by the poet to give out the moral which he has intended to offer. It is an allegory, and Spenser's genius as an allegorist vividly comes out here. The Faerie Queene strikes the patriotic spirit of Spenser. It treats poetically the very remote history of England and Wales and mythologies related to this. It is almost a saga of British people and remains essentially British in inspiration. The poem has been finally designated as an English Christian humanist epic. The poem is written in the famous Spenserian stanza, invented by Spenser for his epic with its characteristic rhyme scheme. After all, in his poetic technique, in his use of diction and handling of meter, Spenser has remained a formidable poet in the English language in the Faerie Queene. Question 8. Write a short note on Astrophel and Stella. Answer. Astrophel and Stella is a celebrated sonnet series of Sir Philip Sidney. It was published posthumously in 1591. It comprises 108 sonnets and 11 songs depicting Sidney's love for Penelope, daughter of the Earl of Essex, whom he could not marry. The sonnets are addressed by Astrophel, a lover, and they deal with his love for Stella, his lovely lady love. The poet himself is the lover, Astrophel, and his lady love, Penelope, is Stella of the sonnet series. Sidney's sonnet sequence is his innovation in English poetry. The sonnet sequence, Astrophel and Stella, gives a more or less connected theme of Sidney's courtship with Penelope. The earlier sonnet describes the growth of his passion for her, his inner conflict between will and wit, passion and reason, and his firm conviction of his profound love for her. Astrophel and Stella stands out as a literary triumph of Elizabethan age that was stirred by the vigorous impulse of the Renaissance. The work is well characterized by a blend of wit and sensibility, of intellectual brilliance and temperamental ardor. Sidney is able to combine here traditional patricianism with a considerable originality in poetic impulse and expression. We can say that Astrophel and Stella is one of the most genial and original literary expressions of a true poet's depth and emotion of love. The sonnet series may not have the variety of the Shakespearean sonnet series, but in the tone of sincerity and in the range of some subjectivity, Sidney as a sonneteer is inferior to none, including Shakespeare, and his Astrophel and Stella is a poetic work of sustaining loveliness, self-expression. Question 9. Write a short note on amorality. Answer. Edmund Spenser's sonnet series Amorality contains the story of Spenser's own courtship with Elizabeth Boyle, whom he married. That romantic background seems to have endowed the series with a romantic ardor. Amorality comprises of some 89 sonnets. The theme of the sonnet series is the conventional one of the Elizabethan sonnets. It traces a long and pure love suit in which the poet, at first dejected by his lady's indifference, is finally enraptured by her love, by her favor to him and acceptance of his love. Spenser's sonnet series may well be compared with Sidney's Astrophel and Stella, but the originality of his sonnets lies in the celebration of happy love. Spenser's sonnets are addressed to a maiden whom he loved and married at the end. Spenser is a master technician in sonnet writing. His grand imagery, wonderful melody, and metrical novelty are unique feats in the realm of English sonnets. Though he is a follower of Petrarch, he is not an imitator. He has displayed his originality, particularly in structure of the sonnet. His sonnets are mostly formed of 3 quatrains, alternately rhymed and a concluding couplet. What is more, Spenser's sonnets has no want of grace and sweetness and possesses the rare melody of great musician in him. In short, his sonnets remain simple, sincere, sensuous, and sonorous, and are warm with faith and feeling. Indeed, Spenser is a representative sonneteer of a great age of sonnet writing. Question 11. Write a short note on a mirror for magistrates. Answer. A mirror for magistrates is an ambitious poetic project of the 16th century. It is a collection of a number of verse narratives written by different poets with cautionary objectives. It is a voluminous work, a monument of industry, and contains more than 1,400 closely printed pages. A mirror for magistrates is a composite didactic work, almost of the medieval type, intended originally as a confirmation of Lydgate's Fall of Princes under the inspiration of Boccaccio's De Caesibus Virorum Illustrium. The collection contained initially 7 verse stories, and it was published as a supplement to an edition of Falls of Princes. Later on, the stories were enlarged to 19, and the volume was published separately in 1559. The new edition was extended to include the tragic fate of different famous and unfortunate Englishmen. Thomas Sackville's Complaint of Henry, Duke of Buckingham, and Induction were included in the edition of 1563. The poets included in the volume have not all been identified till now. Besides Sackville, the other poets contributing to the work include Baldwin, Churchill, George Ferris, Thomas Challoner, Thomas Fair, John Delman, and Francis Seeger, etc. A Mirror for Magistrate contains monologues from different personalities written in rhyme. The purpose is ethical, cautionary. The central theme is the just and unavoidable punishment of all vices, and this serves as an implied caution and is meant for edification. A Mirror for Magistrate is not a great specimen of romance Renaissance literature, but it well embodies the Renaissance spirit of age. It may also be taken as a pioneer of chronicle poetry, and such works as Daniel's Civil War and Drayton's Baron's War are in the direct line of its descent. The poetical quality of Mirror is not at all impressive, but it demonstrates a varying degrees of metrical arrangements of rhythmic movements. It is not individually great, but provides an impulsive stimulus for great poetry. Question 12. What do you know about the Shakespeare's Calendar? The Shakespeare's Calendar by Edmund Spenser in 1579 marked as an important occasion in Elizabethan literature. It is modeled on the artificial pastoral works that were much popularized in the Renaissance. This is found to express first the flowering of Elizabethan poetry as well as Spenserian. The inspiration of the poem is certainly classical, and pastoral style of Virgil and Theocritus may well be seen in it. There are 12 eclogues relating to the 12 months of the year. The poet Spenser treats ethically through pastoral dialogues the physical characteristics of different months. What is more, the unity of the whole design is written through the calendar of the year, presented allegorically. The poem is rather patriotic in its spirit and glorifies England with all the aspects of her natural beauty and charms. The significance of Spenser's Shakespeare's Calendar, however, lies in the technical excellence. The technique in its own, the poem demonstrates his uniqueness both as an imagist and as a metrician. Spenser's attachment to nature and his representation of natural scenes in the poem are quite commendable. Moreover, Spenser's work has a musical most unrivaled. Nowhere his sonority is found missing. In fact, the Shakespeare's Calendar is a conspicuous literary work of the Renaissance. Its effect is immense on Elizabethan literature. Pastoralism is found much indebted to it. The Shakespeare's Calendar contains both vigorous satire and lyrical idealism, pagan despair, Christian comfort, homely humor, and stern morality. In this poem, Spenser combines his humanistic tastes with his love for the soul. The principles of unity and variety are skillfully blended in the poem. Question 13. Write a short note on Elizabethan sonnets. The sonnets in English literature is foreign importation. It originated in Italy during the 13th century. Petrarch and Dante were the pioneer leaders in this direction. The sonnet as a literary form appeared in England as one of the distinct effects of the Renaissance under Watt's literary initiative. Sir Thomas Watt, who was the innovator of the English sonnet, is found to follow by many of his imitators. Watt's great service to English poetry is the introduction of the sonnet with its chastening and strengthening influence on English meter and diction. In Watt, as in Petrarch, is seen a convention of personal emotion. What was successfully followed by his contemporary and follower Henry Howard, the Earl of Surrey. His attempt is not to imitate Petrarch blindly. There is the variation in the rhyme scheme to suit the purpose of English poetry in his sonnets. The new form, introduced by Surrey, comprises 3 quatrains with a closing couplet. Watt and Surrey, however, have followed the Italian theme of love with its passion and pang. Their sonnets were published in Tuttle's Miscellany in 1557. The next remarkable name among the English sonneteers is Sir Philip Sidney, as Astrophel and Stella contains a series of 108 sonnets about his own frustrated love for Penelope, the daughter of Earl of Essex. Edmund Spenser was another great sonneteer of the Elizabethan age. His Amorati, a series of 88 sonnets, are addressed to his lady love, Elizabeth Boyle, who became his wife, and contain some autobiographical matters. He also created the Spenserian stanza. All these works are mainly the sequence of amorous sonnets, but the greatest name in English sonnets is the greatest name in the English theatre, William Shakespeare. 154 sonnets of Shakespeare stand out as the specimen of his unparalleled art. Indeed, those sonnets are unsurpassable for their loftiness, profundity, picturesqueness, and melody. Shakespeare's sonnets are somewhat different from the conventional sonnets of the Elizabethan period. These are not merely about love, addressed to a fair but unresponsive lady love, but of masculine friendship also. To be continued. Thank you.